How can you raise the quality of your life to the highest level possible without limiting your happiness or achievement? I believe that every day is a great day to wake up with a smile on your face and a purpose in your heart. That every day is a great day to be your best. Welcome to the Yin Yang of Life. I'm your host, Mugan Hafiz, and on this podcast, we figure out exactly what it takes to raise the quality of your life to the highest level possible without sabotaging your happiness and accomplishment. Welcome to the show. Make sure to learn heaps, take notes, and follow me on Instagram at @thisisAlmuhan to join our community. Also, make sure to DM me so we can say hi. Let's begin with today's episode. Hey guys, and welcome to the very first session of the Yin Yang of Life. I am calling these superhero sessions, and the reason for that is superheroes, we all have an idea that superheroes are people like the Avengers or the Marvels or the DC universe. I'm not going to get into all that. I'm a huge fan of Iron Man, by the way, no offense. But I honestly believe that superheroes are not like Iron Man or Superman or all these guys. Because not very long ago, I think 4 years ago, when I was obviously 3, 4 years ago in my life, I was at a very low plan. I was at a really low part of my life. And the guy and a lot of the mentors who saved me, they were not superheroes. They were not wearing a cape. I double checked. So the people who saved me, they were people like the guy who I have today, Chris, over here with me as the first superhero. And there were people like all these just great mentors. I look at them as superheroes, and I honor the work. I appreciate the work they do, and I truly honor them as a person for being in this universe and for blessing this universe by being in this. So today, on the very first superhero session, I have Chris Acebu here with me. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Thanks so much, Mugan. And that was such an awesome intro. I love the concept, and yeah, very honored to be here. Thanks for having me.
Chris is a mindset and a productivity coach who helps high-achieving entrepreneurs create an unstoppable mindset and get things done. I just love that part of you so much. And, so they can have the income, impact, and freedom that they desire. And here's the thing about you, Chris. When you're not working or you're not coaching or writing, I'll find you at Starbucks reading nonfiction. Is that true?
Yeah. I was actually out. Yeah. I was actually out at a cafe today, not at Starbucks though, but I was out at a cafe reading a new book. So yeah, that's something that I really love to do. It's just a really nice space to just read and think and not think about work, and it's a nice space to just relax and unwind.
Yeah, that's awesome. So Chris, the very first question that I have for you is, for the most of the people who are watching this, and I remember me being here, is that, when I started with these goal setting or having goals in my life, the most common objection that I had was, I just can't stay consistent. The most common story that I was telling myself was, on Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm doing great. On Wednesdays, Thursdays, and the rest of the week, I am doing horrible. I just can't stay consistent. I just can't stay motivated. What would be the advice that you would give to someone who has this objection?
Sure. So when it comes to goals, we need to be very clear. We need to kind of like dissect what that goal really means, because more often than not, a goal can be a multi-step project. So essentially, it takes several steps or milestones in order to accomplish the goal, or the goal can also be a recurring task or a recurring activity that you do, on a regular basis. Maybe we would refer to it as a habit or a routine or a ritual. So we can have a goal of becoming a writer, right? And that involves writing as often as we can. So maybe that translates into writing 500 words per day or 3 times a week or something like that. Or we can have a multi-step project or goal that can be composed of several, again, milestones or steps. So maybe that's writing your next book or your first book, or launching a product or a service, or even just cleaning your house, decluttering your room. So anything like that. So really, when it comes to goal setting, a big issue that people have when it comes to being consistent or following through with a goal or project is really that inability to break a big goal down into smaller steps. So the key really is in the breaking down of the goals into actionable steps. Now, of course, there are several criteria that would help us make a goal effective, because I believe that there is a right and wrong to set a goal. So a goal really should motivate us into taking action, into making progress. But for most people who don't really know how to set goals, the goal ends up becoming just like a dream for them. Or sometimes what happens, or the worst thing, is that it actually overwhelms them, or it makes them feel inadequate, like, oh, who am I to, you know, to have this goal or to work towards this goal. So
Yep.
those are other things, and that's probably a completely different conversation we need to have on that. But just to stay on track on your question, again, it's really just about on the breaking down of the goals and in getting clear, on the steps. And then in addition to that, really also your ability to prioritize. And the thing is also prioritizing not just by importance, because this is really common, right? Like, what's the most important thing?
Yep.
But we also need to learn how to prioritize by sequence. That just means knowing what needs to happen first, what needs to happen next, and what needs to happen after that. So more often than not, people feel overwhelmed or confused with what they're doing, because even though they're doing the right thing, they're not doing the right thing now. So you need to get clear on what the first step should be, and then the second step, and then the third step. So that's, I think, essentially the answer to that question. There's a really popular quote, I think, from Mark Twain that, when it comes to, I'm rewording it, but essentially what I said earlier, it's like really that ability to break down big goals into smaller goals or smaller steps.
I
Also,
think
one real, yeah, go ahead.
you go ahead. I'll talk.
Yeah, so I was just going to add that one really important thing with goals is that it needs to be specific. More often than not, when we set goals, it's vague, right? I want to be rich, I want to be healthy, or I want to make more money. I want to have my ideal relationship with this person. I want to be more productive. But those, while they can create this initial inspiration, they're vague. We can't really do anything about it. So a really simple exercise you can do is to ask, what can I do, or what are the steps I need to make in order to make more money, in order to start my business or launch my business. So it becomes actionable. Now when you look at the goal, you now see it as something that there's something that you can do about it in order to make progress. Otherwise it's just vague. It doesn't really inspire action, and we don't really do anything about it, and we don't make meaningful progress towards its accomplishment. So it's really, again, it bears reiterating because it's so important, and it's something that a lot of people don't do. They set goals and then that's it. They think that's the end. You need to be able to break those goals down into smaller steps, actionable steps. And that's how and then you do those things one at a time. So that makes it easier, less intimidating, and it makes it more fun because you're taking small steps at a time, and that's really empowering. And it also kind of like builds this identity of someone who is able to follow through, and someone who is able to get things done, and someone who is able to accomplish things. And that's really powerful for your own personal identity as well. So that was a very long answer to your simple question, but I
I
hope.
really love that. I really love that. And when you said that we need to set specific goals, I remember Tony Robbins, he was saying that, people set vague goals. They say, I want more money. Fine, here's a dime, get out of it.
Right,
Right? So
right.
that does not specify. And also another question that I have, because you were talking about identity, I love that concept. My question to you is, how can someone raise their identity so that they are someone, instead of being someone who's not just motivated, who doesn't feel the way they want to where they are an achiever, not only an achiever, but they are someone who's happy, who's excited to
Right.
live life? How do you raise your identity how do you bridge the gap between your identity within yourself? How do you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. I probably would, at the top of my mind, think of 2 or 3 ways in order for anyone to raise their level of identity, to go to that next level or that higher version of themselves. One of it is to work on your personal development. So when you read books about, how to be better, how to have good habits, how to be more disciplined, how to be more compassionate, anything really around self-help or self-development, the natural effects of just exposing your mind in that kind of intellectual environment encourages you, to get to that next level, to step up, to overcome mediocrity, and to fight procrastination, and to get over anything that's getting in the way of you and that next version. So that's the intellectual environment. The next thing would be the physical environment. So one of the best ways to really break out of that, place of just staying on one level and get to the next one is seeing models, seeing other people who are already on that higher level. So when you see someone that you maybe inspire to become, or like a mentor or a teacher, and it can be anyone, it doesn't have to be a coach, it can be like a celebrity or an author or an artist. So when you look at them, what happens in your mind is that you see what's possible. Now this is really powerful because our brain is, it's malleable, it grows, so we have
Yes.
our brain literally can expand. So the really interesting thing about this is that once our brain expands a certain way, once it grows, and that is the impulse of nature and the universe, right? Growth and expansion. So once the brain grows, it never shrinks back to its original, smaller
Yep.
size. So when you see your brain grows, because it now sees the possibilities in the form of models or other people, now it's hard for your brain to shrink back to that mediocre small self. Now you can grow from a place of inspiration and, excitement and enthusiasm. Another thing would be to have something to stand for, something to fight for, because this is really powerful too in the world that we live in. A lot of people, especially millennials and the younger generations, feeling more empowered and standing up to movements and causes that they really believe in. So having something to stand for is a very powerful motivation. A lot of people will refer to this as their why, their reason for doing something. So, if you can be a better person and you're wanting to do so is because you want to be a better parent to your kids, or you want to be a better partner to your spouse, or you want to be a better member of the community or the society in which you live in. So getting clear also on that, like, how do I want to contribute? Asking investigative questions like that also help you kind of like explore that next level of you. And I guess one last thing would be using your ability to imagine. If you get brutally honest with yourself and ask yourself, who do I want to be? What do I want to become? What kind of person do I want to become? What characteristics does that person possess? What skills do they possess? What knowledge do they possess? What impact are they making? How are they contributing? How are they helping improve other people's lives? Now, it doesn't have to be, making an impact in a big way. It can just be, helping, one person, your kid, your parent, your neighbor, anything really that, where you're helping improve someone else's life, someone else's condition, helping alleviate their suffering is very powerful and it's very motivating. And when you talk about things like purpose, purpose, there's no such thing as having a personal purpose that doesn't have an element of other people. So when you talk about our own purpose, there's always an aspect of affecting someone else, right? It can't just be, for you. That's what you refer a passion. And then when you add an, an aspect of other people, it translates or transmutes into a purpose. So that's the fourth thing. Work on finding your purpose. Well, again, actually, to clarify, it's not really about finding your purpose. It's
Yeah.
about just realizing your purpose.
Yep.
We already have it. We already know. I think most of us are just really scared to be honest, when we're confronted with that question, like, who do I want to be? Like, we're, because of our limiting beliefs or because of our doubts and fears, or maybe we had a bad experience in the past, we tend to hide from the answers, but we know deep inside what we really want and who we want to become. And like I mentioned earlier, because the impulse of the universe or nature is growth, just like a seed becomes a tree and a fetus becomes a baby, our impulse is to become the highest, best version of ourselves. So within us is the seed of potential, and it is our job to nurture that seed so that it actualizes into all that we can be. So that is an impulse. And here's the thing, like it's hard for people to stay mediocre because again, that's an impulse. They know they're playing small. They know they can achieve more. They know, they can do what they love and make an impact. So it's always calling there. We just have to learn to start listening to it and aligning ourselves with that impulse.
Wow, I was just lost there listening to all that you were explaining. It was just so beautiful. And it has also been the story of my life when you talked about purpose and when you talked about other people. Every day I'll tell you, every day I wake up and I tell myself that. I tell myself that my life is not about me. I just have to get out of the way and I have to serve in some way. That might be smiling to the person who's living next to me or who's sitting next to me. That might be contributing in a bigger way, but all those keys are just so huge, and I have experienced them, and I think that they are really, really helpful. So you are a productivity coach. One of the things that I kind of struggle with even now is that, some days when I review my day, I'm like, yay, I have a super productive day. I just crushed it today. And the other days I'm like, man, I wished I could do more. What's the difference? What makes the difference? What makes a day or what creates a day? What are the things that you do? One or two things. What are them that you do which just helps you lead with a higher vibration? What are those things?
Right. I love that question. So first and foremost, before I answer that, I want to first start with redefining productivity. So to me, productivity is just about doing what you intend to do. So if you want to be more productive, you need to be more intentional. On the days where we feel most productive are days where we did what we intended to do. So when we plan on writing today and we wrote, we're being productive. And, too often when we think about productivity, sometimes we just think about things that involve money making or work. But it's also productive to rest and to have fun and to engage yourself in leisure and recreation. So if your plan is to binge watch a whole series on Netflix and you did that, honestly, you're being productive because yes, exactly, because that is what you intended to do. So on days where you set an intention and you don't engage with that intention, you do something else. Or when you're just engaging in busy work. And busy work is what happens when you're not being intentional, when there's no clarity of thought. That's when even if you're doing a lot of things, you get a lot of things done. At the end of the day, you look back and too often you'll realize I didn't get much done today, even though on a physical level, you were doing something, you were doing stuff, but it's not what you intended to do. And that's when we tend to think, I wasn't productive because I didn't do what I planned to do, what I set out to do. I didn't follow the block on my calendar or like check my priorities or my tasks for the day. So that's one thing. Another thing, a very powerful practice when it comes to boosting productivity is really keeping track of your accomplishments. So, there are some days where you did stuff and you still didn't feel productive. It's important to kind of like look back really at what you did and celebrate those, even if they're really small. This is so powerful because it actually rewires your brain for accomplishment. It tells your brain like, hey, you're someone who can get things done. You're someone who follows through. You're someone who takes action. That's really important on an identity level. And it's also common for us, that even if we were productive, even though we did the things we needed to do, that at the end of the day, we'd still think I wasn't productive. And the reason behind that is because our brain has something called a negativity bias. We're always biased towards the negative. So if you put a list of things to do and the things that that we've done and accomplished, we tend to focus on the things that we have not done. So that, again, that's why it's so important to take a moment to look at the things that you've done and things that you've accomplished, and really just take a moment to really celebrate, like, yes, I did this. Yes, I wrote the blog post. Yes, I did the call with the prospect. Yes, I coached today. Yes, I brushed my teeth. Yes, I prayed in the morning. Yes, I meditated. Any small step. Yes, I said I love you to my mom. So anything really small. You have to learn to celebrate. This is a very powerful thing that I think is very underutilized. Like honestly, it is not like woo-woo or crazy stuff. Like it's based on science. It literally rewires your brain if you celebrate wins. So kind of like my recommendation would be to incorporate that practice, that at the end of the day, don't only look at like, okay, what didn't I do today or what did I fail to accomplish? I mean, that's important, right? We can get feedback from that. But then in conjunction with that, like also look at like, okay, what did I accomplish? What was I able to do? What areas did I win, today? How did I win today? So one last thing, if you want to end the day feeling more productive, just start the day with what can I do today in order to make today great? So that's just one way to really set the tone for the day, create an intention. That thing could, again, does not have to involve work. It can be spending time with your family, eating lunch with your parents, or calling your mom or dad, or reading a book, playing an instrument, piano or the guitar, like I like to play, or reading a book at a cafe. And, at the end of the day, you can look back and say that, yeah, it was a productive day. So yeah, that's just, I guess it's top of my mind. I'm sure there's so many other
I
things, but
love that.
I think, yeah,
Yeah, I really
awesome.
love that because there I can resonate with what you said, because there are days where I feel like I have not done much, but then sometimes you have to put a leash on your mind and divert it to the things that you did, and the things that you accomplished, the little small things. They are really, I believe that there's beauty in small things. In
Absolutely.
every small moment in life there's beauty, and if you can find that, you'll raise your identity again. Coming back to the question,
Yeah,
I think that's beautiful. That's really
right.
awesome. The small details. And based on that, I have a question that, I believe that when you are, I have a personal belief and an experience that productivity has a lot to do with your emotions. Productivity has a lot to do with not just, being positive all the time, or, I know that doesn't exist because you have a mind. So
Right.
anyways, it's how do you what are the one or two things that you do to practice your emotional muscles, even when sometimes stuff doesn't go the way you want? What are the things that keep you calm and back at your center? What are those things? And how can everyone practice this? One or two things.
Oh, yeah, sure. I love that question. And fair warning, it might be more than two things, but I'll try to keep it succinct.
Awesome. I love that.
uh, as you notice, I'm very talkative. I have a lot of ideas. But anyways, one of the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to improving your emotions, because actually the higher kind of like level of emotions is like our temperament, and then there's the emerges from that is our mood, which is very like, okay, what's mood? But anyways, one of the things that greatly affects mood is sleep. You'll notice that if you don't have a good quality sleep, if you don't have enough sleep, you'll wake up with a bad mood. Bad mood affects productivity. It affects our focus. We're more irritable. We're more impatient. We're less focused. We're more distractible. So if you want to improve your mood during the day, focus on improving your sleep. So whether that means going to bed at regular hours and getting up at regular hours, this doesn't, a lot of people will say like, oh, sleep early and then wake up early. And then some people will, you have to wake up at 4 a.m., 5 a.m. No, that's not necessary. What's more important than what hour you wake up in is the regularity. Like how regular are you sleeping at a specific hour and waking up at a specific hour? And it's not really about when you wake up and when you sleep, it's about what you accomplish within the waking hours. A lot of people obsess about like, oh, it has to be 4 or 5. It's not wrong. It works for some people. But when it comes to productivity, I always try to teach that there's no one size fits all. So you have to get in tune with okay, what works for me? What sleeping hours work for me? How many hours of sleep is enough for me? So you need to be tracking those things, because some people need more sleep than others. Of course, there are ideal, durations for sleep, like around 6 to 8 hours. Any less is not good for your health. Any more is also not good for your health. So getting that right amount on a regular basis really helps with your emotions and mood. The next thing would be meditation. So this is so common, like whatever book you read on self-improvement, um, anything really on personal development, there will always be a mention of meditation. And the reason behind this is that it works. There's thousands of research done on the benefits of meditation. And it really just helps us discipline the mind, calm the mind. So when our mind is not calm, we're very distracted. And so again, that also affects our mood, and that affects our how we run our day, and that affects our productivity. So anything you can do, do your best to start a meditation practice, even if that means starting the day with a 3 or 5 minute meditation, just to get the habit going. More often than not, people struggle with keeping a meditation habit or being consistent with it is because they try to do 10 to 20 minutes right away. And that can feel like a big time commitment. Honestly, it's not a big time commitment, but for people who are starting, it feels like, oh my gosh, that's so much time. But really, the time you get in return from meditating for 20 to 30 minutes is actually way more when you don't meditate. So simple, there's so many types of meditation. So I encourage whoever our listeners to really research, and again, look at what works best for you. You can do mindfulness meditation, you can do just breathing, breath work, you can do transcendental meditation. There's so many different kinds. So explore and then find that right fit of what works for you. Now, ideally though, in order to get the most benefit out of meditation, you need to do at least 10 minutes, and the most benefits you can get when you meditate for 20 minutes a day. So that's how you also centered and kind of like regulate your emotions so that you're in a good state when you're being productive. So one last thing, so I know you asked for 2, but let me just mention one last thing.
Great,
would
great. Let's
be just improving your emotional intelligence. And how you improve emotional intelligence is through emotional awareness. So when you start the day, when you get to work and you notice that you're in a bad mood, or the emotion is negative, the frequency is low, then you can just process those emotions. So feel those emotions in the moment that they arise. That can mean you take a step back from work, you meditate, you take a nap if you're low on sleep, you say a prayer, anything really to kind of like ground yourself and to center yourself so that you are setting the state for work. So this is really important. So emotional intelligence also involves being your ability to set the state. So something that I also teach is like, instead of like, when we look at our to-do list, when we try to be productive, we usually ask, what do I need to do? So in addition to asking that question, what do I need to do? Maybe we can also ask, who do I want to be as I do these things? What emotions do I want to consciously bring in this activity? Do I want to write this, with a foul mood, or do I want to write this joyfully, with ease, with excitement, and with fun? Or do I want to be like, oh, I have to do this, whatever. So it's all about being intentional as well. So I guess that's the last point. When it comes to just being a master of your moods, and of course, mastering your productivity has a consequence.
I was just lost in you again because I think the things you shared, meditation, I can tell you guys, for all the listeners, when I incorporated a meditation routine into my life, as Chris says, 20 minutes a day, that's just it just shifts the level that you're playing at. I believe that energy is equals life. The energy that you bring to life matters. The work, just like Chris said, that you can write in a foul mood or you can write in a joyful, playful mood. So the energy matters a lot. The energy is so key. This is one of the things that I believe so much in. Energy is life. That's a thing that I say and I tell myself every day. So, hey, Chris, it was great having you. I had a lot of questions for you, but all the things you were talking, and you answered all of them even without you knowing them. That's beautiful, I think. So
Awesome.
where can people find out more about you? What is it that you're working on right now?
So right now I'm actually in the process of working on my book. It's called the Productivity Blueprint. So it's
Wow.
still in the works, but essentially it's my own system for getting the most important things done. And it has underwent several iterations as I've kind of like uncovered some things during the research process. But it's a really just simple process for getting what matters done. So productivity now is less about doing more things, because when we have that kind of approach, we're just, engaging in busy work, and we're just dumping as many things as we can on our to-do list, and we're not being intentional. So that's one thing that I'm working on. I'll probably announce it when it's out, but people can download free stuff on my website at chrisacebu.com. They can get a free copy of my goal book, which is a goal setting guide, chrisacebu.com/goal book, or get
The-
my guide on productivity. It's called
I love that.
Productivity Boosters. Yeah, and thanks so much for downloading that. So that's just, you can get that at chrisacebu.com/pb. And for either of those things that you got for free, you'll also be signed up to Inbox Coach, which is my newsletter. So think of it as me, a coach in your inbox. So I'll share,
Yes.
tips and stuff that I don't share anywhere else in that newsletter. And of course, Instagram at Chris Acebu, and Facebook at Chris Acebu Coaching. So yeah, that's where to find me.
So you now know where to find Chris, and he has a new book coming out. It's called The Productivity Blueprint, I think, right? If I
Yeah.
heard that, yeah, if I heard you right, The Productivity Blueprint. I can't wait to read that book because I'm excited. Chris, it was great to have you as the first superhero on our show, and I just can't wait to sit again and ask you a lot of questions, because you just struck up my mind and you got me all excited about your work and what you do. Really appreciate your work. It was an honor to have you today, Chris, and I can't wait till our next meeting. Till then, take care, have
Thanks so
fun, and
much,
I'll see
Armageddon.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
you
you.
too.
It was
Thanks so
an
much for
honor.
having
Thank,
me. All
thank you.
right.
All right, bye-bye.